We are super excited for our next episode of Strategy Shift. We have Lance Keene with us. A quick bio on Lance. He started his professional career in the 1980 as a 74F program analyst in the U.S. Army. And I don't know what a 74F programmer is, but maybe we can talk about that. He was stationed in Germany at the 25th Data Processing Unit and worked with IBM mainframes. In 1987, you founded Keene Systems while studying computer science at Florida Institute of Technology. You're also a co-founder of Cybex Corp, an industrial robotics firm, and co-founder of the Sarbrook Company, a software company catering to the package industry. And you have developed custom software solutions for some major Fortune 500 companies. And you've also had 38 years of experience helping businesses improve their operations with custom software development. You have a team of 35 ASP.NET web developers building solutions around client-specific business processes. And ever since 2002, you've built web solutions with ASP.NET and SQL Server. And also you speak multiple languages. And again, we're doing this in English with a little bit of sarcasm. So we appreciate the fact that you speak Spanish and German, but we're not doing that. And then you've been a lifelong learner and you've attended multiple schools. That's a long list. And
it's a long list. I was worried that people think that I got kicked out of 13 different colleges. It's just I keep going to different schools. I keep studying.
And you also practice karate, and you have a rank of a third-degree black belt. But I'm pretty confident Tom and I can outrun you.
Yeah, with my after my knee replacement, I'm sure.
Yes, I think you have a black belt, but we can outrun you, so we're good. And you also have a lifelong art project building an off-the-grid medieval stone castle in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, which is fascinating. And you originally started that off as just a dream home to live in, but along the way it became much more than that. It became a source of inspiration to others, not just for achieving one's goals in life, but also teach the world about alternative energy and alternative building. And we'll drop the in the video podcast, we'll drop the videos and then your website. So we're super excited to have you here. And also my co-host Tom Freedman is here, dynamite guy. So Tom, appreciate you being here. You're looking good with the new haircut. And I personally have to go with the short hair now at my age. So that's my only fashion item. But you didn't need to do that, and you did. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, summer's coming, and this is the easiest and cheapest and most functional way to operate. So excited to have Lance here, and let's see if we can get some information from him over 38 years in the technology field. See if some of these small business owners and leaders can grab a few nuggets of info that they could apply to their own business today.
All right. Yeah, actually, I've been in the business for about 45 years, but Keene Systems is 38 years old, that I founded and while I was attending Florida Institute of Technology in my third year. Seemed like the right thing to do, and I was minoring in business. So when somebody suggested starting my own corporation, I was like, oh yeah, that would be great.
Excellent. Lance, you've had a ton of different clients along the way, from sizes and types. But since our target audience is the small business world, how do you think technology in terms of you guys doing customized web development work, right? Software development work, how does this apply to the everyday business owner in the small business world? What is this world coming to for technology, and why is customization so important?
I think it's important because when companies first start off, they're still trying to figure out what business they're in, and they're manage their business process. Usually, sometimes at first it's on paper, and then they discover spreadsheets, and that works fairly well for a while until they maybe get up to 40, 50 employees, and then the process becomes a little more complicated. There's more steps, and they develop a special process that gives them a competitive edge. And at that point, they have to get out of these spreadsheets because they start to become unruly. All kinds of problems with spreadsheets. People tend to pass these things around in email, so you have multiple copies. There's no workflow. There's lots of data. There's no data validations. You have data entries. It's just really, it gets to a point where it's too clunky to actually be effective. And what they really need is a web application that totally matches their business workflow. And this is where the custom programming is. They can buy an off-the-shelf tool, but quite often the off-the-shelf tools, they're made for the masses. And they may get you 80% of where you need to be, but that last 20% is what makes you special as a company, because you do it a little bit different than everyone else. It's your value proposition. And so actually we've had a lot of really huge clients. Most of those were back in the 1990s, but now our focus really is small business. So for us, our real sweet spot in of all possible clients are the small businesses that have grown to the point now where they have a data management problem, yet they don't have their own internal IT staff. Okay, so once you get up to the $100 million range and you've got 500 employees, you're probably going to have your own IT staff. But if you're a smaller company and you've got anywhere from 5 to 100 employees, then you're starting to look at the inefficiencies in how you're managing your business process and your data. And that's when people start looking outside of the company. It's like, how can we get this under control? It seems like
you're so intelligent, Lance, that I think that it sometimes for a lot of folks is intimidating, especially on the IT side. But your favorite clients, Lance, right, are business owners that just paint you a picture of like, just tell me how you want the company to flow and I'll build it. Right?
right.
Is that true? Right?
Yeah.
A
So
lot of
what we've developed is a process of interviews. So we use GoToMeeting instead of Zoom. So we've been using that since 2004, long before Zoom or Teams or any of these other tools existed. We were doing this. So we would have a video meeting like this, and we would interview different people in the company and figure out what they needed for data to manage their job. And we'd take examples of their paper and of their spreadsheets, and we would cobble together a solution and a requirements document documenting everything that they need to manage their business process. And what we do is we write it in plain English. So the people on the other end, the target audience of that document, are the users, the people that interact with the data. So it's got to be written in plain English. It's got to be simple. And the more pictures you can add. So if we're going to design a screen, so we pass it to them and we say, look at this document, read this, and tell me if this would improve your job. This would make your life easier. And that document goes back and forth. And this is how we interact with people who don't have any computer experience or designing documents. So we have professional business analysts that will work with those people and to tease all that information that's in their head that they've been doing for years, and they have a hard time even explaining it to somebody how they do it. But we're very experienced at getting that stuff out of their head and onto paper.
Right. You're talking about helping organizations with their internal processes and basically communicating internally. This is our secret sauce, and this is, I'm going to help you. 80% you could probably get there with a COTS solution, right. But based on our processes, we're going to help you communicate and implement your remaining 20% that can really communicate their value.
Right.
Is that correct?
Well, actually, it's the whole thing because we're
Okay.
not delivering just 20%, so we're capturing everything that they need to do to manage all of their data.
Right.
Sometimes it's the entire company, their whole process. Other times it's just a departmental solution. One department has got one data management problem and they need a web application to solve that.
Somebody once told me that for business, once you understand what you're supposed to do, its success is nothing but a series of how to do it more effectively and efficiently, right? And like, so for you, I think what you're doing is leveraging technology, listening to your customers, understanding what you're supposed to do, trying to get the gist of like what the workflows look like, and then leveraging technology to make it more effective and efficient. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So tell me about this. Like the world is ever like changing, right? And so is your business. So let's say you and I work together for our business right now. You start to build out a customization because it's now sort of proprietary to me. Is it now much easier to make alterations and changes
Oh,
as we go along?
absolutely. I'll give you an example of a client that we just picked up this week, and we met with them this morning. It's a company um, in Michigan that does building permits. They're building inspectors, and so they issue the permits, and they have a whole bunch of, I think, something like 15 different municipalities where they're doing that. And they had a developer put together a system for them, but it's completely inadequate and it's very difficult to update. We're switching them over to a newer technology, ASP.NET, and we had just the same discussion today, which was, once you're in complete control of this, you can call us up at any time and you can say, hey, I need a new report here. I need an extra field on the data entry field on this data entry screen. Or, we've got a new process, or the state of Michigan has changed and they've got another filing requirement. They want another piece of information from the builder, things like that. Once you are in control over all of the development, it's your intellectual property, it doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the client. You can make changes to it at any time. Now, if you've got a commercial product, like I said, it's only getting you 80% of where you need to be. It's very, very difficult to get that software company to change their product for you. You're only one of their clients.
Yes. And normally that's a full migration versus like if you were to customize it, it's an ever changing process through it, which I see with a lot of small business owners. And I know I've done this in the past. When you want to make a change, you literally switch the entire software package. So in other words, you trash what you have and find something new for its next evolution. The migration.
I'm going to say that's not always the case. You don't always have to do that. So, for example, I'll use the same client that we're speaking with this morning. This is a small company, just a husband and his wife. They're completely overwhelmed, finding themselves working late into the night because they're dealing with a lot of paper. And so they also don't have a lot of money. They spent a whole bunch of money with another software company and they didn't get what they want. So their budget is very small. So in working with them, we're not going to throw everything away. So the database was written, and
you can leverage that.
yeah. So
Nice.
what my business analyst said, hey, look, we can save some money here if we don't throw away the database, because the database, we've looked at it, the database is a good design. It's the front end that's a mess. So we're going to keep the database, but we're going to completely replace the user interface, make it more user friendly, and give the client exactly what he wants. But we're not going to rebuild the database in a different technology because it doesn't need to be.
Well, one of my favorite things that you just said, right, was like using a real life example that you don't have to be like some huge conglomerate to do customization for web
Right.
development, right? Like this can be suited for a very, very small outfit. So we'll get into this question, Adam, maybe you can bring this up about maybe the timeline or like what are the trigger points where you really need to think about customization versus off the shelf, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
Lance, that was a great story because that was a husband and wife team, right? And they hired a software company. They kind of got burnt, right? Because the outcome wasn't what they expected. But you were able to come in and say, okay, let's do it. We're gonna analyze what did you like about that. Let's keep the parts that you liked, and let's get rid of this. And like you said, the back end worked, but the front end's a mess. So would save some money, keep the back end, and then because it's a custom app, you can do that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and so when is the and I know this is a tough question. So when should companies start thinking about, you know what, this might, we're only using spreadsheets. When should they, like if I'm a small company, when should I start thinking about, maybe it might be
Yeah, it's
more
a great
value?
question. When you start seeing examples of inefficiency in the company. So for example, it's like you go to the accounts, like, why is it taking us so long to get invoices out? Or all of this data that it's got tons of errors in it. Or we find ourselves working late into the night because we don't have a good process. Our process kind of half paper, and then we got these spreadsheets, and we're kind of cutting and pasting thing, and we got data duplication. That's another thing where you got data in two different systems, and you have to cut and paste. That's a red flag. Doing anything in spreadsheets. So, as I said, people usually start off managing their business and their process workflow by using a spreadsheet as if it were a database. And spreadsheets are great when you're doing financial data and calculating numbers and doing summations and doing some forecasting, et cetera. But using them as a database, it'll only get you so far. And then as the company grows, that whole process around the spreadsheet will start to break down. I'll give you another example. We had this is actually our biggest client. It's a $200 million a year underground utility construction firm in Massachusetts. And what they do is they lay down the gas pipelines for the gas utilities. And their process was so utterly broken. They had 500 employees. They make about $200 million a year. And the way they were managing the process was they had pre-printed paper forms that the foremen and supervisors would take with them into the field. And they would try to document everything that happened in the field. And the reason being is because everything that happens in the field is a billable item and it's tied to a contract. So every day they had 80 teams. Every day this mountain of paper would come into the back office from these 80 teams, and they had no application to put it in. So what did they do? They do what all people do when they're starting a business. They open up Microsoft Excel and just start typing away. So they had a small army of people typing all of this paper data into spreadsheets. And they had a spreadsheet for this, spreadsheets for that. And and it would take them about 6 weeks to get an invoice out.
Wow.
And they were riddled with errors. It was literally costing them millions of dollars a year and stunting their growth. So they brought us in to build a comprehensive work management system for them to manage everything that happens in the field. So now the guys in the field have tablets. They enter the data right there. And these guys are not, computer scientists. They're average construction workers. It has to be super simple. It's like, I'm putting in a pipe. All right, what's the fitting? What are you doing here? What's the length, width, depth of the pick? Because that's tied to the contract. And it works them all the way through a series of questions and gets all the data that they need. And then now the people in the back office get that data instantly, and it's already in the app, in the database, and they can run reports. They can do all of their billing. They can do everything from that. And they estimated that it's saving them, somewhere $8 to $10 million a year now.
Wow.
And Lance, you can apply that same type of process creating a work management system to small business, right? You talked about
Sure.
The husband and
Sure.
wife team, right? That's
Yeah.
obviously a
Actually,
fantastic example, but we
this
don't want to
project
use.
started off new. It started off as a small project, and then when they saw the success in that, they started looking around the company, and they said, "All right, what else can we put into the system? How else can we leverage this to make other departments?" And now we're like 12 years into the project
Wow.
because they just keep adding and adding and adding and automating things in the company.
Well, do we want to get into the castle here? I
I
know I
think we
want to
do.
talk all day,
Of
but
course,
we've
you
got
can
to get
never.
into the castle. And before we do it, again, Lance, we use all these pieces and we're going to edit as we go along. So let's go ahead and get this one out. About custom software development, web app development. What's the one thing that you would like a small business owner to pull from today's conversation? What's a tidbit of information that you would like a small business to take, thinking along the lines of what can they do to really make their business far more effective and efficient using what you do for a living?
Hmm. Okay, let's see. Well, I think one of the biggest message, I think most small businesses might think, oh, that would be too expensive.
Yeah, because exactly. Because my,
Yeah,
because Tom and I both own businesses. So my perception is, oh, I can't hire a company like Lance. It's gonna be crazy expensive, and we're not ready for him, right?
right.
But you're saying most of you started small, and then you've also mentioned that
Yeah.
these are the things that when
See,
you're
and
running
another
into these
thing
roadblocks.
too is you don't have to do it. One, we don't have any minimums. I mean, a lot of times we do projects as small as $5,000 where we're just automating one simple thing. We're doing one task, or we're taking over when a programmer left. Um, and sometimes we're or replacing legacy systems. But when you do a software system, you don't have to do everything all at once. We like to try and get the owner's thoughts down into a document so that we can see kind of a roadmap of what you would like to do. And then we do an estimate on that, and each task becomes a line item in a spreadsheet with a cost associated with that. So then the owner can look at that and say, maybe we'll do these 5 things this year. All right. And it will push the next few things off to next year. And then the lowest priority thing, I mean, or the bigger things we can push off into the third year. So you're spreading the cost of development over a couple of years, and we focus on that which can get you the best bang for your buck right now and make a difference in your business. How can we improve your efficiency now so that you can afford the next 2 phases?
And from a cash flow perspective, what I'm hearing is you're going to roll this out iteratively, and you're going to be creating efficiencies, which is going to generate more cash for me, where I can then hit the next phase.
So I'm always asking the question to the clients, what's the most important thing that we can do that will affect your cash flow? And we'll focus on that first. Another thing to consider too is we work with 2 different finance companies that basically treat software development as a capital improvement. So, if you're a landscaping company and you need to buy an excavator, you can get that very easily. Well, these finance companies treat software as if it were a piece of equipment like an excavator, and they can actually finance it just the same way that they would financing a truck or an excavator. So that's another thing that we've used with a few other clients that really need it now versus they want to see the improvement this year and not have to wait until next year when they can afford it.
Nice.
Love it. Well, I got a couple minutes, Adam. You want to dive into this castle
Yeah,
thing?
so Lance, we're obviously fantastic discussion around our the industry and your business, but what we're really excited about is we want to talk about your castle.
Yeah, we can never finish a phone call without at least a castle update.
Absolutely. So tell us,
Okay.
this was your dream. What kind of lunatic decides to build a castle in a mountain? That's what we want to know.
Perfect intro. Perfect intro. Well, as you also mentioned, when I was a computer programmer in the United States Army, I was stationed in Germany. There weren't any wars going on, and from 1980 to 84, it was a great time to live in Europe, and the American dollar was incredibly high, and I got to travel to just about every country in Europe, and I visited a lot of castles. I just fell in love with German architecture. So fast forward to around 1998, I was consulting at Mack Trucks, and I wanted to get back to New Hampshire, where I grew up. I went through I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, a motivational speaker, and I went through his goal setting workshop. And in 1998, I set 3 goals. 1, move back to New Hampshire where I grew up. 2, find the woman of my dreams, settle down and start a family. And 3, build a castle. And I bought the top of this mountain inside of the White Mountain National Forest. Normally can't buy property in there, but this was a piece of private property. It was grandfathered in before it became the National Forest. So I got the whole top 20 acres of this incredible mountain. And if you look at the view, it looks like we're out in the middle of nowhere. But we're literally only 20 minutes away from this office in downtown Plymouth, where I've got a major university across the street. We've got supermarkets, restaurants, culture, everything here in town. And I'm only 20 minutes away from the castle inside, cross over the border of the National Forest, and then I'm out in the boonies. And so I have the best of both worlds, have this beautiful lot with civilization nearby. So I started working on it in 2000, and I didn't have any money to put into it. I spent about 10 years just doing stone masonry out on the cliffs and doing the terraces and around. And I started working on the design and working on the road. And it's got a 1,100 foot road with 5 switchbacks that I had to make myself. So I was logging the road and pulling the stumps and making the road. And then I built this 106 foot long terrace out on the cliffs. And then I had to get serious about building the house itself, so worked with the home CAD package and lots and lots and lots of iterations. And I finally came up with a design that I liked. And because in 2016 I had to start laying out the footings of it. And I think 2018 we poured the footings and the foundation. 2018, 2019 we laid down the deck, the first floor deck. 2020's first walls started going up on the first floor. 2021 we actually poured concrete into the walls. So we're using I've got an example block here. I just keep an example block just in case. This is called an ICF block, insulated.
Yeah, Tom, I also have one of those on my desk.
Yeah, all the cool people have an ICF block under their desk just in case.
You never know what could happen. You need one of those. Tom, let me see yours.
So as you're building, you're going up, you'll put a piece of rebar in these styrofoam blocks into these holders here. Put your horizontal rebar, and then once you get it up to the top,
I'm gonna ask a question that a lot of people are thinking right now. Does Amazon deliver?
Yeah, I buy a lot of my building materials on Amazon. I don't buy the blocks because they're really big. They're 8 feet.
Are they still out there after 452 switchbacks? Are they?
I spend thousands of dollars on the castle project every year, ordering material from Amazon. And another hint for people: if you're going to build a castle, get yourself one of those really good 2% back credit cards.
Potentially, ideally, when do you think this could be done?
Well, all right.
Before
So
you have to find another woman of your dreams.
yeah, yeah. The first wife wasn't into the whole castle project, so I had to replace her.
That's great.
And second wife, yeah, she's been with me for 18 years now, and she's all into the castle project.
All right,
100%. So this year, last year we made a valiant attempt to try and get the second floor walls up, and it didn't happen. We were going to try and pour concrete first week in December, and then it snowed. And once it snows, you can't get a concrete truck up there. So that's going into this year. We've got maybe a month of work to do to get the second floor walls done and ready for the concrete pour. And then not sure what else I'll work on, maybe landscaping and whatnot for the rest of the year. Next year, we'll be putting on the flat roof. That means getting probably $100,000 worth of Douglas fir, like we did for the first floor. That'll be placed on top of the second floor walls. It's only 2 stories, but it does have a split level that comes out on the cliff. So the living room is right out on the cliff, and we've got more than 180-degree views. It's more like 200-degree views. But we'll put the timber on next year and get the flat roof done, and then in 2027, this is what you want to hear.
This is what we want to hear.
After 26 years of working on this, I'm finally going to hire a builder. So as it is now, because I'm an amateur builder and because it's a multi-year project, I cannot get a building loan. So everything has to be done out of pocket. And I have to tell you, this money pit project is killing me. So we do I've got 2 budgets every year, a budget of time and of money. Sometimes I run out of money first. Sometimes I run out of time first. Last year, I ran out of time. So all the money that I set aside for the concrete pour goes into this year's budget, and we'll get that done this year. So we'll take a real building loan in 2027, hire a real builder with a team. And now all the really crazy stuff has been done, like the road's done, the clearing the lot. So
more importantly,
footings.
We want to know when the party is. When you,
that's right. Again.
That's what. So Tom and I can take a ride.
Tentative goal.
Yeah, we're gonna parachute in.
In a perfect world.
Right?
In a perfect world, I want to be in there for Christmas of 2027.
Oh, I'll be dead by then.
Yeah. So that's the plan. But as the way things go, things don't always go as to plan. My plans are often thwarted, more often than not, when it comes to the castle. Hence, we're 25 years into this.
Fantastic. So 25 years, a couple more years, and then everyone's invited to the party.
Yeah. That's right. Right.
Awesome. This was fantastic. So Lance, tell us how our listeners can get a hold of you.
Say again?
What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, you could go to the website keensystems.com, spelled Keene, then systems with an S, systems.com. You can read up about us there. And our corporate phone number is 603-726-5058.
And you also have a website specifically for the castle, right?
Oh, yeah. So instead of keensystems.com, go to keencastle.com. Again, Keene, castle.com, where you can see pictures of the castle going all the way back 25 years and videos of us working on it and updates and all the blood, sweat, and tears that's going into the castle.
Outstanding. All right, Tom, why don't you bring us home, and then this is another great episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lance, it was great having you today. I think the audience picked up a lot of great things on the technology aspect, mainly understanding that to really improve their effective and efficiencies as a company, exploring workflows through technology, specifically through web development and software development, is certainly something to consider. So I really appreciate you having the time to spend with us today and explain some of this to our listeners. And with that being said, this is another episode of Strategy Shift, and hope to catch you on the next go round.